Are you thinking about a move to North County, San Diego? Today we are going to get into 9 things you won't find. These might be some things that you are used to in your communities that we don't have here in North County, San Diego. Stay tuned to the last one. It is an important one for a lot of folks.
Howdy, howdy. I'm Chris Erickson.
And I'm Cassidy Lewis.
And we love making these videos for you guys and giving you all this information, but we're also real estate agents out here in North County, San Diego. So if you guys are kicking around the idea, pondering, have some questions, hit us up, call, text, email. We got your back when moving here to North County, San Diego. Let's jump into 9 things that you will not find here.
The first thing that you won't find out here is traditional seasons. And that might be one of the reasons you want to move out here, to get away from snow, ice, tons of rain. Obviously, our weather here in San Diego is incredible. We just don't get those normal traditional seasons.
Even like right now, I think it's the first day of spring and it is gorgeous out right now. And like later on this week, I think it's getting into the mid 80s. We're like right in the middle of March right now.
We do have a couple local seasons. We've got kind of an overcast season, that May gray, June gloom time, where you'll just have a couple extra overcast days. If you want to get out of that overcast area, it just means moving a little bit further east. It kind of clears up or burns off a little earlier in the day if you're out in San Marcos, Escondido, a little bit further away from the coast. We also get something called a Santa Ana, which, if you're not familiar, is winds coming off of the desert going towards the ocean. And during that season, it is our fire season here in San Diego. And it's usually kind of July to October, sometimes even creeping into November, where we'll get those Santa Ana winds and just some risk of fires.
And then living right here by the ocean, we do have some times when the surf is good and when it's not. Those summer times, you might get some really flat spells in the ocean. For the most part, we do have some sort of wave, even if it's smaller waves. There's enough different angles of coastline where we get some south swell during the southerly, summer season, and then north swell when we get to the winter season. So it gets the biggest in kind of that December, January, February, when we get big storms up in Alaska, pushing some big waves down here to San Diego. In the summers, like I said, it could be flat, but right after those summers, when we do get some of those Santa Ana winds, the conditions are clean, the air is warm, the water's somewhat warm, and we will get some fun kind of southerly swells hit, like I said, different parts of the coast, depending on where you are. If you're in Oceanside, you get a little bit more exposure to those southern swells.
Some of the things that kind of go along with those traditional seasons are rain. We don't really get much at all. We don't really have a rainy season. You'd usually say winter, but it's kind of all over the place, and we just don't get that much at all. As for cold, it does get a little chilly here, especially like evenings and mornings, kind of in our winter time. You can get down into the high 30s, low 40s, but that's somewhat rare. And the big one for a lot of folks is humidity. We really don't have humid, like those hot, humid days like some of the Midwest, the East Coast. We just don't have that same kind of sticky feel. When it's 88, it feels like it's 88 and it's dry and it's nice.
So if you like those seasons where you're coming into fall, the leaves are changing, you get a white Christmas, you get coming into that spring where everything's blooming, we don't really have that here. So if you want your seasons, this is not the spot. The second thing we don't have in San Diego is your traditional basement. There's really no need for them out here. And so I think we've been doing real estate for a long time. Well, I know we've been doing real estate for a long time. And in all the houses we've seen, I might have seen like one traditional basement.
We do see from time to time in the coastal areas, kind of in Encinitas, Cardiff, where if a house is on a slope, you will see them have kind of a non-traditional basement, like where you just see windows, or maybe it's a garage that's underground. So you see a couple of those from time to time, but it's not really that same feel as a basement, say in the Midwest or something.
Some houses out here are on a slab, just a flat piece of concrete, and the house is built up. Others are built up a little bit on a raised foundation, so you will have like a crawl space underneath the house where all your pipes are running. There's some of the venting and stuff, so you can potentially get underneath the house. It's not that big. It's usually like a crawl space. It's not walkable, so it's a pretty short little area.
And you'll see out here a lot of folks use their garage kind of as that same basement style thing, like using it as a gym full time, or using it as the ping pong room or something like that, game room kind of style. You see a lot of people use their garages that way just because parking outside, since our weather is so mild, you don't have to worry about snow in your car, or hail, any of those things. So you see a lot of people use their garage as kind of that additional space.
The third thing we don't have a ton of here in North County, San Diego, and every city is going to be different. So if you are searching for this thing that we're going to talk about, look it up. Go to the city website and check it out, but is Airbnbs for condos. Most of the condos around here are going to have 30-day minimums within their bylaws, within the HOA documents and stuff. So you're not going to be able to rent it out. It might be a good investment if you did run the math and see that Airbnb style. It would make a great investment, but the restrictions are pretty strong in most HOA communities. So if you did want to look into Airbnb your condo or something like that, be sure to check in with each city. I think Solana Beach has a 7-day minimum. They do allow it in certain condos, but once again, it does have, the HOA has to allow it as well. Encinitas does not allow any condos. It's only single family residence. And even in single family homes, they have a 3-day minimum. In Carlsbad, there's a coastal zone where you're allowed to do Airbnb. They're always changing, always switching. So if you are looking for something like that, hit us up or go to the city's website and check out kind of what the current standards are for Airbnbs.
One of the things you won't find a lot of here in North County is new construction. There's just not that much new development happening in the area. Most of our communities, Encinitas, Carlsbad, have been developed out to 98%, maybe more than that in some spots. So any new development that's happening is tearing something down, rebuilding, or tearing down old greenhouses and rebuilding. So we are seeing a few of those, but they are kind of few and far between. Some of the smaller coastal new developments that are going in are Fox Point Farms, which is right by Encinitas Ranch Golf Course, right off Lucadia Boulevard in Encinitas. And this is going to be a pretty cool, I think we'll start to see some of these kind of pop up randomly, but a really cool development to check out. In Carlsbad, you have the Preserve, which is a newer development that is sold out now, but we'll start to see some of those come back on the market as resale. And you'll see some kind of micro developments where somebody bought a lot with one house on it, split it up, turned it into townhomes, or split it up and turned it into smaller detached houses. So you'll see those from time to time as well.
Once you get a little bit further from the coast, San Marcos does have a few new developments, one just north of Santa Fe Hills, and then one kind of right in the center, Mission Circle. They're kind of building that out right now, grazed a giant hill, basically made it all flat. Canopy Grove out in Escondido, they are still developing that. That's one of the brand new builds. It used to actually be an old golf course. There's a few right off the 56 down to the south.
And we are starting to see it kind of in a few of our more rural communities like Fallbrook, Valley Center. Those spots that have a lot more land that hasn't been developed, you're starting to see them. Some of the spots are not kind of the ideal locations. You've got some right on the freeways. You've got some that are just, Valley Center is a ways out. If you are into being kind of around town, it's kind of out there. But there are some of those developments to look at too.
And most of the new construction isn't like these huge developments. Like we were just chatting with a client out in Austin and how they are building it out. They have a lot of space outside of the city limits. So they, Austin proper. And then as you go out, it just spread out and these huge communities, like just basically just going out as far as they can. Right here in North County, San Diego, they are smaller communities, like maybe few hundred homes tops. So they're not these huge master plan communities. There's just not enough land to do it. But once you do get into Valley Center, there's some of those are a little bit bigger, but still as a whole, most of the new development, new construction is going to be on a smaller scale.
One of the things you won't find here in North County, San Diego is flat terrain. If you're moving from someplace like Florida, it will be a shock. There are hills kind of everywhere, and you'll see that a lot of our communities are even named after hills. San Alejo Hills, Santa Fe Hills, Discovery Hills. There are a ton of them around here. So if you're looking for that kind of flat terrain, there is not that much of it. But one of the things that all these hills and mountains and stuff give you are incredible views. Where I live in San Alejo Hills is where Double Peak Mountain is, that you've heard us talk about a few times. There are huge views from all these homes that kind of surround that little area of San Marcos. So if you are looking for views as like one of your main focuses, there are a ton of options here in San Diego.
One potential negative, if you are moving out here and you love to bike, you love to hike, you love to walk, you love to jog, you love to run, you're going to be dealing with a lot of these hills. Last year, I decided that I want to get into running, so I ran a ton. I ran over 1,000 miles last year, and cruising around, you don't notice it while you're cruising around in your car. You're kind of just going up and down. You're going real fast, but when you're on foot, these hills are real. You're going to get tired. You're going to get worn out. Be ready for these hills kind of everywhere, even like little rolling hills through neighborhoods and stuff like that, not even necessarily going up these big mountains. There are hills everywhere around North County. Coming in at number 6 of things you're not going to find here in North County, San Diego, North County specifically, because once you get to downtown area, you will definitely find it. So if you're looking for some nightlife, downtown, kind of the surrounding areas down there are going to be your go-to. Up in North County, this is the burbs, my friends. It's a quiet little place. Everything closes pretty early. There are some bars and all that kind of stuff that does stay open late. North County as a whole is pretty mellow. You're not going to find a ton of nightlife, a ton of nightclubs, music venues, all that kind of stuff. It is pretty mellow place as a whole. Places close early. We go to bed early. We got our families. I'm in bed by like 9 o'clock. So if you want that downtown lifestyle, move a little bit closer to kind of the downtown proper of San Diego.
So one of the things that people think about when they think of Southern California is palm trees. Not so much. Not in all the communities. There are a lot, obviously, all through Southern California. But there are some communities here in North County that don't have that same palm tree feel, that same coastal ocean vibe. San Elijo Hills has rules about front landscaping, and it's kind of that mountain feel. You got a lot of like pine trees, you got a lot of trees that lose their leaves in the winter, and some other communities as well. You've got Shadow Ridge and Vista, kind of the same thing, pine trees, but a little bit more eucalyptus trees as well. And then Ranch Santa Fe is another community where you don't get a lot of palm trees. It's mostly a whole ton of eucalyptus trees. Obviously, in some of these homes that have like an oasis backyard with pools and slides and all that, you will find palm trees there, but as a whole, the communities aren't covered in palm trees.
And then as you get out to Fallbrook and some of those more rural areas, you will find a lot of avocado trees, citrus trees, like huge plots of land that do have those everywhere. We are like the avocado capital of the world. So as you're cruising up even the 15 freeway, you can look off to the either side and see a ton of avocado trees. And kind of tying in that tree front, you also won't find a ton of forest. So if you're used to like neighborhoods within all these trees and stuff, Pacific Northwest, a few other spots in the East Coast, you won't find that really here until you get out to like the mountain areas of San Diego. So like Julian is a mountain town right here in, well, it's down to the south. Palomar Mountain right here, right off North County, San Diego, just right off Valley Center, is another mountain town where once you do get up there, you do find those beautiful forests, a lot of hiking and stuff. Next up on the list is the eighth thing you're not going to find here in San Diego, and it's people who could drive in the rain. Since it doesn't rain all that often, when it does, people drive super slow. We actually made a video, I think it was probably like a year ago, and somebody commented that wherever they live, which it does rain a lot, and they said they can't drive in the rain either. So maybe it's not just a San Diego thing, but honestly, the roads get super slow. People are driving super slow. There's accidents all the time. A lot of times the roads are a little bit slick too because it doesn't rain for a lot. So the oil builds up on the roads. It just, that first rain after a long time, it does get a little slick on the roads out there. And people are just very cautious and don't know what to do when the rain starts falling.
And that ninth thing that you won't find in San Diego that we hyped at the beginning is bugs. We don't have a ton of bugs here. We don't have seasons where there's a ton of bugs. We do have termites, which is something obviously on the housing front when you're looking to buy a house that you have to think about, but those don't bother you on a daily basis. We don't get a ton of mosquitoes because there's not a ton of water to be standing water because it doesn't rain here often. So we don't get a ton of mosquitoes. We don't get a ton of other creatures. Obviously, there are a few bugs you have to think about here, but for the most part, we just don't get those crazy like outbreaks of mosquitoes and things like that where you get that in other parts of the country.
And if you want to learn a bit more about North County, San Diego, be sure to check out the next video popping up. And if you are thinking about moving out this way, hit us up. Call, text, email. We got your back. We're moving here to North County, San Diego.